The first game we have on the list here is Space Cadets Dice Duel.
Yes, it's designed by that family, Geoff Engelstein and Sydney, his daughter. And the artist was Michael Christopher and Cody Jones, and it's published by Stronghold.
So Space Cadets is a game for up to 8 players where you have 2 teams of basically crew of a ship, and you're yelling commands. It's all real time, and you're trying to roll dice and such to give out to the different roles of your ship, which are controlled by people, to do certain things and move your ship around on a board in the middle of the table. And you've got 4 roles. The first role, or one of the roles, is the engineer, probably the focus of it, I guess.
Right.
They don't really do a lot other than they roll the dice. You have a bunch of 6-sided dice that you roll, and depending on the number, you can assign it to whoever has that function. Mm-hmm. So one player can do the shields and the movements, and another player can do the sensors, which are like for jamming and locking on targets and stuff like that, and the weapons system. Mm-hmm. Then you have the captain, who we'll come to last. So the person in the middle, basically you want to sit them in the middle. They're the engineer. They're rolling dice. If you get a 6 or whatever, I think it's a wild. The rest of them kind of assign to one of those other things. So it's like the captain might say, okay, we need to move forward. So you need to get dice over to the person controlling the movement. So you look over and you see what number it needs, and you just roll the dice as fast as possible. When you get those numbers or the wild, you get to pass them off to that person, in which they get to spend those dice then to roll the dice that are specific to that roll, because it has a bunch of custom dice for the different rolls. And when you spin the white dice, which are just basic D6s, it allows you to roll those custom dice and try to get symbols such as the movement will have like a move forward, turn left, move forward, turn right, or move forward twice, etc. Mm-hmm. The shields might have like, you got a front, sides, and a rear. So depending on what you roll, you get to put them in certain slots to kind of fill up the shields on that area. The weapon systems, you're trying to roll to complete a missile. So you got the back of the missile, the middle of the missile, and the front of the missile. So you need 3 dice to do it. And then the sensors, you either roll for its jammers, which will stop them from being able to stop the other team from being able to target you from the distance, or it increases the difficulty of them doing so. Right. So they need more. What's the other one? Lock-ons.
Lock-ons.
They need more lock-ons in order to do so. It's essentially you need enough lock-ons per space up to that to the opponent, but then the jammers plus the jammers. There you go. Anyway, what happens is, and the captain doesn't have a role other than they get to just stand up and look over the table and shout what they think needs to be done. So everybody just basically says, go. Your ships start on this big grid, and you start in the opposite corners of the board. There's some things you place out. We won't really get into all that. But you start rolling dice, and you're like, okay, rolling. All right, you know what? We got to move forward 3 times, move to the right twice, so we can get one of these there's these purple gems laying around the board on these different spots, and you can use those for various special abilities, essentially, like repairing your ship and such. So you want to get some of those, so you're like, okay, let's go target those. So you're like, okay, well, we need some you need 2 lock-ons per space to get those, the tractor beam or whatever. Right. And is that another role? I forgot.
I was going to say that was another role that, I think the person doing the shields and helm.
So they have 3 things. Yeah. Yeah. So they have a tractor beam, and it allows you to move things around, basically. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you just keep rolling dice, and you roll dice, and you assign your dice to different things. And eventually you're going to get close to the opponents, and you're going to be fire. And when you say fire, the game pauses. So you don't have to go crazy at this point. Right. And as it's paused, then you start counting up. Okay, well, we got X number of lock-ons. You're 4 spaces away. We've got 6 lock-ons. Oh, you only have 2 jammers. That means 6 minus 2 is 4. We're 4 spaces away. Bam. You spin your missile or missiles. If you have 2 of them, you can do up to 2. And you basically will either do 1 or 2 damage unless they have shields. And if they have shields, then you're going to roll the missile dice, basically, and there's a way to determine. It's kind of like a luck at that point.
Right, it's burst.
Yeah, you have to roll a burst, basically, depending on their shields that they have to do the damage. So it gives you a chance of doing damage, but you have to, because they have shields. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you just immediately do a damage. Right. And the whole point of the game is you're trying to destroy the other opponent's ship. They have 4 hit points. Once they've suffered a hit point, they take one of their white dice that the engineer is rolling to assign. So your resource dice essentially, and you put one of those onto the damage space to show that you suffer damage. And if you suffer 4, you die. The other players win. So let's start off by saying this, Matt. That was the first time you played this, but you played 2 games.
Yes.
Okay, we've played it before, and I've played it where you have 6 players, there's 3 on each team, you don't have a captain, so you don't have somebody not doing anything and just kind of watching over everybody and spouting commands like a captain would.
Right.
And then I played it at the party where you do have a captain, so it's a 4th player on each team. So I've played it with 6 players and 8 players. I'll immediately start off and say I probably wouldn't play it with anything after other than that. It plays up max
other
of
than
8. Like, I wouldn't play it 2-on-2 or something.
Right.
Like, I mean, maybe I would. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but I don't think it'd be as fun.
That's a lot going on.
Right. What did you think about it first off?
Chaotic. I got to start off being the green captain, not knowing, it's a lot to take in on gameplay, especially if you got to be the captain to one, know how to tell your crew what to do. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a lot to take on, and you're trying to watch the other people, maybe even listen to what their captain's saying. But I mean, even at that point, it's just so much yelling and screaming. I don't know. I felt useless.
Do you think you should have played some of the roles before being a captain?
I mean, that would help. Jake obviously did a lot better at being a captain than I did. He's played the game before, but I don't know. I made a few cool moves here and there, but then I also made, I think, a few bad ones. And then as far as gameplay, I also played another role. And man, every time the engineer would hand me the dice, I'd always roll the white dice. First time. It's like,
it's those are special dice?
Yeah, instead of using the special dice, however many special dice I get for each white dice. And it seemed like every time I'd roll the white ones first. So I'm losing time on that. That's not a big deal, but it was frustrating. I kept doing it over and over. And then, yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's chaotic. I don't know. You've played without a captain. How'd it go without one?
Here's how that went.
It seems like it'd be a lot of like button heads or not good communication. You almost need someone direction. It seems. Maybe I'm wrong.
At first, we played it without a captain, and I thought this game would be so much better with a captain. Then we played it with a captain, and I'm like, it's not that it's better or worse. It's a different experience. And that's one of the main points I wrote down for me to talk about.
Organized chaos, I guess.
Well, okay, think about it this way. Without a captain, the 3 players on your team have to pay attention to what they're rolling, what they're doing, and what's going on with the other roles on your team, and what's going on with the other players. Because everybody's talking, everybody's sharing that captain role.
Right.
And so like, okay, well, we need to move up here. And then somebody else might say, well, if we do that, we're going to be really close to the opponent.
Right.
And look, they've got 2 missiles already prepared. Whereas if you have a captain, the captain is basically spouting out commands on what to do. If you're a good captain, I mean, first play is a different story.
But even at that, he's not saying why he's doing certain things. He's just saying, go up, go up.
Right. And think about it from your perspective, when you played the weapons person instead of the captain.
Right.
Did you actually care what was going on?
I didn't look at the board at all.
Right. And so that's what I feel like it's a different experience, because with a captain, it's almost like the captains versus the captain, and that's it.
Okay.
It's a 2-player game at that point. You're having all your minions do your work.
Right.
Now, it might help for people. Some groups might do a lot better, but I feel like if you start spouting commands about, like, Captain, you're not seeing this, then you get like way too much inner chaos between your party.
Right.
You almost just need somebody who's good at being a captain and who can see what's going on with your team and monitor the other team at the same time, because they don't have a role to do other than they're watching over the game as a whole.
Right.
And so I think it's just a different experience because you lose the team communication at that point, and it's just captain on captain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's bad. Like I said, I just think that it's a different experience. And I actually think the more I think about it, it's kind of a cool experience because some teams might like that better. I actually think I would probably prefer without a captain, but if I had a captain, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Right.
So that's what I think on that.
Okay.
Now, any negatives that you can think of that you thought about?
I mean, it's not a negative, but it's really detrimental to lose a dice in that game because it's essentially you got that much less that you can do, but that's part of the gameplay. It's not a negative, but
Yeah, I think that I teeter-totter on if that's if it's like just part of the gameplay or if I really don't like it.
It's like a landslide effect.
I'll tell you this, right? It's you get hit once, it's not as bad. You get hit twice, you're like, oh crap. Especially if the other team has full health.
Right.
It's really hard to come back at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get shot at, you're still right there. So they're still shooting, they might have half the stuff prepared to be able to shoot you again before you get to move.
Right.
Because you might have been preparing for something different and have no movement dice prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And the movement dice, you have to have all 3 of them before you even begin to move. So I don't know. I feel like
you can regain the dice, but it's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, you got to go get 2 of those purple shards I was telling you about, and then you can repair 1. But you have to run away so much to do so, because if you're already that far down, they're chasing you.
And you're probably using crystals to warp away from them at points.
Right.
So setting you back a little bit more. And
you might get 3 or 4 a game. It's not like you get tons.
Right.
So now the reason I teeter-totter on if it's a negative is because the length of the game is okay. Maybe 25 minutes or something.
Fast.
I mean, it's so fast. If it was a lot longer, I would probably be more upset about the damage rules and when you lose a die and stuff like that.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah. I mean, I thought it was fun. I'm looking forward to playing it a lot more. So I've only played it 4 times maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced all the roles, although I will say that with a captain, the roles are just placing you're rolling dice and placing them onto what you just rolled.
Right.
Oh, I rolled this part of the missile. It goes here.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled this part of the missile. I rolled these shields. They go here. You can re-roll them, but the movement's probably the more thought one, kinda. But if somebody's telling you what to do with movement, then you know what you need.
Right.
So I don't know. That's why I like it without a captain more, because you're like, okay, look, I'm getting ready to roll some missiles, or not the missiles, but I'm getting ready to roll movement. What is our plan? And so you kind of have to like interrupt everybody else to be like, okay, let's talk about this, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like I said, totally different atmosphere with the captain without.
I could see that.
Anyway, any final thoughts on that?
That's it.